today with La Prensa, and we're here with Bertha Delgado. Bertha, can you tell me a little bit about your group and what its mission is about?
So Arte Texas contains of 9 artists that are locally Austin natives from the surrounding areas, predominantly from East Austin. They were collaborative that collaborated last year in 2015 with the saving of the Loteria mural on Cesar Chavez. And the mission of the artists and everyone collaborating together to create Arte Texas was to not just recognize the longevity of the work that's been done here in Austin, but also to continue to restore and to promote art and our culture and our community. A lot of that is no longer in existence anymore here in Austin. The creators of that, in the art industry back in the 80s, the 70s, 80s, and the 90s are just not as, they were able to move on to other projects and do other things, and East Austin artists were just not promoted as well as given the opportunities to continue on their art here in our community. So the mission for Arte Texas is to continue on the indigenous of our culture. A lot of our art is no longer in existence anymore. We are doing restorations as well as bringing back old murals that are no longer here anymore, but also giving back to the community and teaching emerging artists and youth artists to become, more involved in their community and being able to give back to the community, as well as create a future for the emerging artists.
Now, let me see if I heard you right. Did you say that the artists in East Austin weren't recognized in the same way as the artists in West Austin? Was that right? Or
well, and the art industry, throughout the state here in Texas, if you look at all of the history of artists and the minorities, many of the artists weren't able to be recognized or even acknowledged. You go to the Austin History Center, if you go into the Mexican American Culture Center, if you go into the Mexican Arte Museum, any of the museums that are locally established here in Austin, you don't find East Austin or local native artists in those galleries. You don't find those artists doing shows or actually out there doing documentaries that are archived in our history. It's very rare that you see minority artists, graffiti artists, barrio artists, street artists. You don't see that here in Austin, Texas.
what drove you to organize this group and get the ball rolling as far as the restoration of the East Austin murals?
Well, growing up in the 80s and the 90s, graffiti and just cultura art was a part of our beautification. It was a part of what we saw on an everyday basis, on the way to school, on the way to the grocery store. These were our friends, these were our brothers, these were our uncles. And just to see all of that displaced, vanished away little by little, it was heartbreaking for people that lived in the community, that were from the barrio, that had to see that on a daily basis. One day we was there, the next day it was whitewash, or the next day they threw a paint on it, or the next day somebody tagger came and tagged on it. We had to see that on a daily basis. So growing up, being in the activist world, being a promoter, being out there in the community, serving as an organizer, as an advocate, one of the inspirations that drew me was to make sure that we got that back, and that it stayed, and that people respected it, and that people understood that it meant a lot to us, that it wasn't just a tag, or it just wasn't just a mural, or it wasn't just a message. It was someone that we knew that put that there. and we wanted it back. And that just gave me a drive to just fight even harder with the city, because the city's responsible for what happens on city property. The city's responsible for businesses and buildings and arts and public places. So it was our mission as an individual, as a taxpayer, as a resident, as an advocate, as an activist, was to make sure that these were back on those walls, and that these individuals got the respect, got compensated, and as well got recognized, because it just wasn't fair. It wasn't fair to them. And we continue that struggle. That's why we created La Lucha Sigue art show, because that was about the lucha. It was about how our ancestors paved the path for these guys, and that it's their turn to continue the lucha, to keep going and pave the path for the younger graffiti artists or emerging talented artists that are out there that want to be artists as well when they grow up. They looked up to a lot of these gentlemen, just like they looked up to a lot of their elder artists like Raul Valdez, Ramon Maldonado, Tapon, other people that inspire them to do the work that they do today, or they've always done.
And what is your message to Austin and the world? What would you, if you could, what would you tell the people that are moving into East Austin and want to destroy the murals?
I think that our biggest message is to all you out-of-state residents that are coming in, and all of you graffiti writers out there, and all your new artists that are coming in East Austin. East Austin is our stomping grounds, is where we grew up. It's our heritage, it's our culture. It's more than art. It's more than an art piece. It's more than a graffiti mural. It's our home. It's our heart. It's our childhood. This is where we grew up at. This is where we were raised. This is where our families are rooted from. And all we ask is for respect. And all we ask is, collaboration. I don't think that we're against any other new artists. We are just trying our best to survive in the art industry as well, just like they are. So as they come from their hometown to someone else's hometown, all we ask is just you respect our art and educate yourself about it if you don't know it, and embrace it.
Thank you so much, Bertha.
You're welcome.
Hearing Bertha Delgado speak so passionately about what drove her to start her organization reminded me of something President Obama said at the Democratic Convention. President Obama said, "America has never been about what one person says he'll do for us. It's always been about what can be achieved by us together through the hard, slow, sometimes frustrating, but ultimately enduring work of self-government." It's a real shame that the museums Bertha mentioned don't recognize Native East Austin minority artists. And I think Bertha taking it upon herself to make sure these artists do get recognized is exactly what President Obama was talking about during his speech at the Democratic Convention. Hello, I'm here today with La Prensa, and we're here with Robert Herrera. Robert, can you tell me a little bit about the history and origins of this mural and what it means to you and your role here today?
It's been a restoration project. We've been trying to restore it for 2 years. 2 years ago, they were talking about getting outside people to come paint murals at this wall. They were going to take them down. So Al's sister had gotten in touch with me, and we started talking about restoring it, figuring out what we could do, whether or not we would use outside forces, use city programs, or come do it ourselves. It started out we were just going to do it, just the artists come back and paint it ourselves, get permission from the city of Austin, and redo it. During this time, it's been what they call they call it gentrification. I call it urban colonialism. It's not gentrification. My viewpoint, that's too nice of a word. So I don't use gentrification. But as far as the mural goes, we were trying to hold on to a piece of history.
So most of mine are gone. And like I said, they were illegal, so most of them were paying it over. But a year ago, got in contact with Berta and Felipe Garza, and we did the loteria. And then everything started up again, and all these guys that I knew and respected as artists, we got together again and formed Arte Texas. And here we are a year later, and we're still restoring artwork in the community and reaching out. You know, we want to grow as artists, as people, and help out the community more.
And how does it kind of feel to be back in the game, so to speak?
Oh, it feels good. It feels good. You know, now I can tell you this: it's a lot more exciting doing artwork illegally.
Oh, really?
But we don't get recognition, and we're older now, and that's what we need. Just to show the younger kids that, you know, hard work, dedication pays off at the end. I'm advocating doing nothing illegal, but organization, it's a good thing, because we're out here in broad daylight, doing what we love, hanging out with friends, you know, and I think it's a big part of community, love and respect that we have for each other.
And what does tagging and or graffiti art mean to you?
It's freedom. It's just not graffiti art itself, it's just freedom. We can be activists, we can be peacemakers, we can express ourselves, not only as individuals, as a community, as whatever. But as a graffiti writer specifically, tagging was primary, because that's when you build your friendships up with your co-writers, you know, like your best friend, you know, y'all go through whatever, and longevity, and then, you know, then you meet other people, then you form groups and get more friends and whatever, and then just share the love of art as a whole. So now what we do back then, and what we still do, is we do black books, which means every artist has a book, and we pass it around amongst ourselves, and we share art.
That's interesting. Can you tell me a little more about this black book?
Oh yeah, it's basically just a writer's book, or like a journey. You can just, you know, it could be individual pages or whatever, but you give freedom to the next writer of expressing themselves in your book, and it's like a collage of friends, of ideas, of what they got at that specific moment. It's basically just a little gallery in a book.
That's really beautiful. Thank you so much for your time.